So, I tiptoe in two separate industries right now, one being entertainment and then obviously the technology side. So, in entertainment, things have been really rough, right? Like we had COVID, then we had a strike, then we had another strike. And we've had a lot of industry leave Los Angeles because of tax credits elsewhere. So, a lot has gone to other places, other spots in the United States, as well as to Europe, and specifically London. A lot of work has gone. So we've had a lot of challenges.
Hey guys, and welcome to the Grow IT podcast. One of your hosts here, Trey King. And today we are very excited to have our guest, Jess from Global Objects. And we'll be diving into her story today, what it is, what her company does, and then, as always, some engaging insights into the technology industry. So make sure to stick around for this one. But without further ado, Jess, welcome. Thanks for hopping on today.
Oh, thank you so much, Trey, and happy to be here.
And Happy New Year to you too. Jace, I think if we can kick things off, if you could kindly, just give us a couple of snippets, just a bit around your background, please.
Sure. Jess Loren, originally from Chicago, found my way to Los Angeles, chasing the Hollywood dream,
There we
started.
go. There we go.
Yeah. Started in technology. If you're familiar with Groupon, I had one of their first competitors out of Chicago.
Wow.
Out of college, I've always just been a serial entrepreneur, I guess you could say, and sold that company back in my early 20s. Bought a boat, went to Europe, did the crazy things, and then decided I needed to prove to my parents I had a real job and got back to work. So, met my partner in Vegas, found my way, like I said, to Los Angeles, and got into
Right.
entertainment. Um, through my former background in tech, I wanted to kind of incorporate my tech abilities into what's going on in entertainment. And throughout, we started a studio here in North Hollywood. We have about 22 employees. We have a virtual production stage in the back here. And if you've watched shows like The Mandalorian or, what's going on in virtual production, that was kind of the first big virtual production experience.
Yeah.
We decided to get into more of that side. So the technology that's involved with virtual production and visual effects. And throughout our studio, we just dove really deep. We got involved in being in the startup programs with Microsoft and NVIDIA, as well as AMD. And being a female founded company, we've gotten a lot of support to kind of figure out many different workflows for entertainment with technology. So at Global Objects, we are trying to digitize the world. And I know that's a very big statement. I have a
Love that.
very funny approach of telling people I'd love to be the world's largest digital land baroness. But
Right.
I'm
Right.
yeah, I'm very bullish about say we were to leave planet Earth, and there was copies of things, and we had a time capsule. Is in digitizing, say, we did to create the digital twin of this stapler, right? Um,
Right.
in that time capsule, upon leaving Earth, we would have the data that existed of this stapler because it existed in the real world, and we can verify that, right? So,
Right.
um, we've spent about a couple $1 million in a couple of years, figuring out a true high fidelity one-to-one digital twin. So
Right.
we achieved that back in the summer of last year. And then through that process, we've been applying it to environments, which we call scapes, and then objects themselves. And then there's about 1 million applications that you can use these twins for, one of them being in the media and entertainment sector for television and film and putting it in virtual production. Even to, we recently had a request to scan a heart, a human heart
Wow.
for
Oh,
how
wow.
future people can train in AR, VR on, human matter. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, if you think of what I'm doing as like kind of like the Noah's Ark, right? You took two of all animals and stuck them in. That's, essentially what we're doing is we're trying to digitize the world because it existed in the real world. We're creating that copy.
All right. Tell me from I mean, you've been doing this for quite some time and you've got quite a colorful and very interesting background, I must say. What currently would you say in your industry from a market perspective? What's going out there these days? What trends are there at? What ways are the wind blowing?
So, I kind of I tiptoe in two separate industries right now, one being entertainment and then obviously the technology side. So, in entertainment, things have been really rough, right? Like we had COVID, then we had a strike, then we had another strike. And we've had a lot of industry leave Los Angeles because of tax credits elsewhere. So a lot has gone
Mm,
to other places, other spots in the United States as well as to Europe, and specifically London. A lot of work has gone. So we've had a lot of challenges in entertainment. In technology, I would say, and with my toe in entertainment, I wanted to focus on, what's happening in digitization and sustainability, right? So, like, if we're going to lose all production, and we're talking about physical production, like being in actual space, how can we
yeah,
bring that back to Los Angeles? So, my team and I got into scanning and digitizing locations around the world to then, film in a soundstage here in Los Angeles. So I think that is a trend as virtual production. It's been going on a couple of years, but I think specifically to both sectors, it's very much coming alive. And I think producers and technologists are like, oh, we've reached the highest fidelity, right? So we have photoreal now. And there's a lot going on in, if you've heard of, splats and, there's this, we just bought a new capture unit called I think it's called H grid, and it does Gaussian splats. So, and you can
oh
put them
wow,
on
that's
the production wall. And outside of entertainment, I think, well, how does this relate to me as if you're sitting in your living room, right? My goal has always been that one day I will sit in my living room and I'll push a button. I can be anywhere in the world.
that's
Um,
awesome.
and I was just at CES, and LG had an experience like that. So
Are you serious? Oh
yeah,
my word.
yeah,
Just
so
shows you, right?
the combination of AI, with we have reached photoreal through scanning technologies and point clouds and combining those, photogrammetry, photometrics, et cetera. My team has been able to figure that out in the process, and apply it to different industries and
Industry.
angles. But your original question is trends. So I think the trends in entertainment are moving towards digitization, virtual sets, et cetera. I think in
Yeah,
technology, everyone is just talking about AI and automation and processes and how does AI work. And I think what we are doing is, again, going back to a stapler, is saying the stapler is real, it existed in the real world, and we're creating a data set, right? This
right.
exists in the real world. And we're letting the robots understand the size of the stapler. How did this feel on my finger? Like, and then be able to see, the detail. Whereas I
Right.
traditional modeling has just been based on an artist, right? And their
Yes.
interpretation of the stapler. Well, my team is saying, no, this stapler really had these ridges and there was no interpretation because it was real and there is a ridge here. So
Yeah.
I'm
That's
providing that
that's
data to the robots.
goodness. Jess, that's so fascinating. Like you mentioned AI. I mean, it's the buzzword, right? Tell me, I would like your perspective. I've got a lot of CEOs, founders of companies that come on the show, and a lot of them are obviously, given our sector and what we do as a company. There's a lot of talk about AI, and it's always interesting for me that the different takes that the leaders have on what impact this AI is doing on not just the market but for us in general, may it be, or even for business or so, right? So would just like to have your take. Whereas, I mean, I've got there's owners coming on that is afraid of it, or not afraid of it, risk adverse maybe. Uh, uh, and then there's others that's very optimistic. Then there's others that's like finding a middle ground on it, being you know in between them, cautiously optimistic, if I can call it that. So what's your take currently on AI?
Yeah, I mean, artificial intelligence, right? It's artificial, right? It's not human. So I think there's that aspect, as we always have to view it as not human.
Yeah.
But from an aspect of like just in my personal life, like I have created my own models on my tone. I've created so many automations that have just saved me time, right? So if you compare it to like, Tony Stark with Jarvis, like I have my superhero powers, right?
It's a
So
good analogy.
yeah. So I just think we have to embrace it because it's not going away. And
Mm.
there was just an article I read, in a couple of years, AI is going to take over 30% of the workforce, right? So how do you, watching this podcast, not be a part of that 30% who is now no
Right.
longer has a job. So you have to embrace it. You have to embrace AI, and there's little steps that you can take. There's, like for me, one of the things is I created this GPT about myself, right? For my tone and all this. So I took 5 years of emails that I had composed myself,
Yeah.
uploaded it in the knowledge base. I took all of my text messages,
Yeah.
uploaded it into the knowledge base. I wrote a book. So I took experts from the book that I wrote and put in the knowledge base. And, just a simple example is I recently had a friend whose father passed away. And I'm someone who has a really hard time with death and
Right.
expressing how I feel to
Yeah.
them about the death and just like losing words and kind of, getting caught up in it.
Mm.
So she wrote a message on LinkedIn. I took that message, I put it into my GPT, and I said, how would I respond to this?
Right.
And it gave me the most succinct, personal message that was from me, words that I would use.
What?
And I was like, this is the power of AI. It's like it knows me better than myself, right? And I sent the message to her and it was well received. And so just a small example of
Yes.
AI and information, but I think, people can use that example as to apply to their own lives. But so that's just specific to my personal self and how I'm using it just for
Yes, but I mean
communication.
that's I mean that's quite profound. I never ever in my life thought about that. That's so interesting. Tell me, Jess, could you give me an example? You don't have to mention the client's name, but where where your business has, like successfully helped another company by, obviously what you guys do. If you don't mind, just a bit of a success story, just to provide us with some more perspective on what you guys do.
Yeah, so we've been really lucky to have a lot of support from Microsoft specifically.
Right.
And I think in the cloud computing world as well as in the AI world, everyone's trying to get access to GPUs, right? So we also have support from NVIDIA. So I think that's been helpful for our company. But having those connections has been extremely successful for us, for our clients, right? So specific to, gosh, a large studio, right? So, and we've been talking a little bit about digitization and creating virtual sets, right? So,
Right.
for sustainability purposes and, specific to entertainment, I think there's a lot of, how do we save money, right? And in many businesses is, so how do I use AI and then how do I save money with it? I think specific to a very large studio, we were brought in to kind of help answer some of those questions for production. So for physical production. So
Yeah.
our team was sent out to London and kind of all over England to 7 locations. And we scanned these locations. So through the process of photogrammetry, photometrics, LiDAR, aerial and terrestrial. So from the air with our drones to the land, we had a team of 5 people.
Yeah.
And we scanned these 7 locations and created environments, which we call scapes, for this studio. Now, what does this mean? It means that we now have the data set to be able to create a digital set and not have to go to that specific location again. In this specific location, in one of the 7 was $150,000 per day, right?
What?
So in that regard, we had captured enough data where whatever scenes they might need to shoot there in the future, we had the
Yeah.
data where we could put it on a virtual wall and they could effectively shoot that scene again,
Shoot that scene.
without, yeah,
Goodness.
without paying that fee. So we were able to help that studio see cost savings.
Yeah.
And then they have the data, right? So um, if they want to, they can train on that data in the future. So say this data set is for a particular series, right? And
Mhm.
in success of that series, there's multiple seasons of said series. And you can scan the props, right? So you can learn
Yeah.
about the props of that particular show. And so you can start to see many things that align up to, sustainability purposes for cost savings, for travel, and everyone wants to talk about carbon footprint and all of that. So I think there's a lot that can be unraveled and put onto a spreadsheet of, okay, here's that final number of what we were able to save. So that's just one thing that we've been working on. I think in the realm of like military contracts, like, if you think about a submarine from the 1950s that, we built in America,
Yeah.
what do those plans look like? What is an as-built, right? And our technology, we're able to go in and scan a submarine to, a sub-millimeter, where we can then create an as-built of that submarine from the 1950s. And what can you do with that? Well, you can put that into AI. You can learn about how that submarine was built.
Yeah.
You can create a plan or a print, or, to iterate on that 1950s submarine for a 2025 submarine, et cetera.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and then also, like, we were asked to scan a fighter jet, right? And there's many reasons you would use this digital twin for, for training purposes, because
Virtual.
yeah, virtual training. And then, we scanned a military backpack recently. Like, so if you put that backpack on, I'm 125 pounds, right? I put in the backpack. If I'm going through a cave or I'm going through a tight space with that backpack, we can simulate all those things.
Oh, great.
So
With it. Goodness. Um, I mean, listening to you now, Jess, there's such a lot of value that you guys, bring to the table. I can fully understand why you guys are so successful. That's such good value. Tell me, we got a lot of listeners that, that it's their dream to be in that position of a CEO, or it might be that they're currently, even stuck in a rut when it comes to a job and they want to jump ship and, they want to go do their own thing for that matter. Is there maybe one or two things that you don't mind sharing of what you think it takes to be a good CEO of a company?
yeah, I mean, grit, and you have to be selfless, right? So, you're the leader of a team, and you have to, the biggest part of being a CEO, it honestly comes down to like human resources, right? So, like, people in their lives and understanding them,
Yeah.
So, and then there's the business side of it all, right? So, for me, I've typically always been an entrepreneur, so I've always bet on myself, and I've been very lucky. So there's some luck, right? But then also grit and determination, is I'm not going to let myself fail for myself, right? So I think
Yeah.
there are some people that are good at that and some that are not. So I don't know that everyone can be an entrepreneur, but if you feel like you're a self-determined person and you can stay focused, and focus is stay focused. So grit, determination, focus. Understand that as a CEO, you have to lead a team, and understand their lives. So human resources is a huge, you have to be understanding of people and their time and their families and things that are going on in their lives. That's going to
Good
impact
point.
your business, right?
Right.
So
So tell me, Jace, where can they get hold of you guys?
yeah, so globalobjects.com, spelled exactly how it sounds. And yes, there was a deal that had to be had to get globalobjects.com in the year 2024. So so
A small
negotiation,
a
right?
small transaction, maybe. So
So part of being a CEO, negotiation tactics, right? So,
Sure.
so that happens. So globalobjects.com. On LinkedIn, we're very active on LinkedIn, as am myself, Jess Loren, Loren, on LinkedIn. If you want to follow my crazy life in Hollywood, that's MS Jess Loren on Instagram.
On Insta.
I have this interesting intersection of technology and entertainment. So I lead a weird life of like, I'm on the board of the Academy, right? So I vote on all of the
Wow.
shows. I'm part of the Producers Guild. I'm part of the Visual Effects Society, all while being part of these tech companies and their um, startup programs of being, we're a Microsoft startup. We are also an NVIDIA Inception program. So I get to live a
Yes.
very interesting life of the intersection. Um,
Yes.
you know,
I mean, it's quite a full life, I must say. Wow. Very inspiring. It was just lovely to have you on. Thank you for sharing your knowledge, expertise, telling apologies, telling us a bit more about your company. Like I mentioned earlier, good value. I can understand why you guys are so successful. I wish you all the best going forward, growing only from strength to strength. And it was lovely having you on. Thanks for coming. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Trey. Nice to see you. And thank you to everyone. And reach out if you want to chat. Happy to.
Awesome. All the best. Take care.